I am joined by EM and Blaine, and we are going to talk about something that is really, really off the edge. Make sure you listen all the way through. Blaine, why are you giggling?
Well, because when we get to these moments, I know I'm going to have a good time. And this is a very good use of my time with you two. We're at Davos -1, and it's an exciting time. We don't know what the hell is going to happen. Maybe nothing happens, but there's just so many interesting things happening in the
So
world
many interesting
as
things.
as the confident globalists get on edge and start to throw chaff and flares and everything else about kicking and screaming that their plans don't seem to be quite as smooth as they had once envisioned them many years ago.
They're going to come up with something else, which we're going to talk about. Now, it's Tuesday, the 20th of January, 2051, as I record this. Please likes, comment, subscribe. It really supports my channel's growth and beats the algorithm, helps me beat the algorithm. And I'll have the links for EM and Blaine in the description below, so you can follow them on X, Blaine's podcast, and EM's vlog. All recommended. And Blaine, we recorded a video on Saturday and on Sunday, and it did start off with me, but both of us laughing. We just couldn't believe about how Europe is going to wage war against the United States with all
Yeah,
21 soldiers. So people should go check that out.
yeah, but
Now,
but EM didn't hear my Tennyson derivative poem, which was "Into the Valley of Icicles Rode the 35."
Yes.
well, Ian
Little,
would
little
have to go and watch that video, but he
funny
probably
little
has done already.
story. The Charge of the Light Brigade actually succeeded. They did actually break the artillery line.
Yeah.
Okay.
That part gets left out now at immense cost.
Yes.
But they did actually break the artillery line. Yeah.
At immense
So that
cost.
would mean Europe in this case would need at least 565 more.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure the horses, they're going to need Icelandic Icelandic
You're gonna-
ponies to be able to handle
You can
it.
rent polar bears.
Yeah,
You
right,
know?
polar bears.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, they're out of work now because of climate change. So
God.
they work for fish
God.
balls.
That's right. Now,
Is
Blaine,
Al Gore renting them out? Is that his second business now?
It goes to his holding company in the Seychelles.
Blaine, do you want to start this off?
Yeah, so we're at a very interesting point because we see a lot of movements on the big chessboard from Washington, mostly from President Trump. When he does these destabilizing moves, like we saw in Venezuela, I'm taking Maduro, I'm not regime changing you, or Iran, we'll put a gun to your head, but we won't pull the trigger. And then it was just, once again, I'm going to be redundant, but it was lovely to watch Lindsey Graham's great horror at that event. And then here we have the Greenland thing coming up right now. And I find the timing to be very interesting because Greenland has always been a concern for ours. Earlier, it used to be a concern for the Danes, pointing out, I was at NATO when they were writing paper after paper after paper saying somebody better do something about the Chinese and the Russians in the Arctic up here. Well, now that we're interested and we find out they can't hold it or take it, we've decided you guys are dangerous, so we'll take it. All these things at their retail value have some authenticity to them, but it's really the second, third, and fourth order effects that our president is seeking. And I think he's winning on. You're seeing at first Europe raise its fist. How dare you even say the word Greenland? And here come the tweets the day before he goes and talks to Davos about how they want to work with him on this and help him on this, all except for one, the very recalcitrant, not the Kool-Aid drinker, but the Kool-Aid mixer, Ursula von der Leyen. And she's doubling and tripling down that, without saying the word United States, tell me how you're an enemy of the United States. He's moving them, is my big point, in the directions he wants them to move. And we have a lot of domestic problems here at home in the United States. And I wouldn't begin to understand what is about to happen, but I do think on the timeline, we're picking up in events, we're picking up in speed and velocity. And it's hard because I like to kind of put together a most probable, a likely scenario or most dangerous scenario. I don't really have a feel for it as we go through. I think Scott Bessent gave us a little hints today with his statements before Davos on, the Europeans are just lying to everybody, including themselves, because they're still living on Russian gas. Something's in the offing, and I don't know what it is. I think EM's probably going to have a better handle on it, on the granularity of what that could look like. But what I'm fascinated by is all of the various moves we've seen in such a short, compressed period of time over the last 7 days.
Yeah. I wrote a little thing today that Europe is a thrice divorced wife that no longer is very attractive. You know, she doesn't have her same beauty. She's been living very comfortably off alimony and child support payments from
She's fat.
from three different baby daddies, and one of them's not even from Europe, so she got mixed race kids, and one set of mixed race kids, and she's been turning the family against each other. You know, all three of these families against each other for their whole lives. So there's all kinds of family issues. The kids hate each other, and they hate her, and the ex-husbands, and now there's no more even child support coming in. And so she's just got enough attractiveness left that she's looking for that fourth and final husband to live off of. And unfortunately, she's not as attractive. She's not hot anymore. She's got all these family issues. Everybody's tired of her shit, and nobody's willing to spend, a half of their fortune, to sustain her lifestyle anymore.
Needs dental work.
Needs dental work. Yeah. So no amount of cosmetic surgery is going to fix anything anymore. Right. So this is Europe. This is, and I say that somewhat as a joke, but in reality, isn't that exactly what we've been doing? Didn't we support Europe after World War I and World War II and after the Cold War? And right. So, so I say that because, I grew up in and around a certain socioeconomic class, and I've known women exactly like this. I might not have dated a couple of their daughters and know this kind of world intimately, right? And whose fathers were some of the biggest families, in the world, right? And their mother was hot at one point. And so, like one in particular, I know had 5 of these marriages, right? Was on her 6th, okay? And made tens of millions of dollars off every divorce, okay? So I say this because these types of estrogenics have a very specific type of thought pattern, and what they're looking for is that next man that will come in and back and support them to continue the fights they've got from all the previous husbands and kids and everything else, but keep them in comfort and luxury. Well, what is Ursula and Macron doing right now at Davos? Calling for China to come in and invest heavily in Europe. They're looking to China now. They believe the psyop that US and China are at war, that we're going to war, that we're actually enemies. They believe it. They're saying, well, if you invest in us, we'll go to war with America. We'll go to war with America. We got we've been setting it up for 60 years. If you'll come and back us in support of China, because we know you want to take America down because that's your peer power, that's your peer competitor. And, we want to help you in the Thucydides, succeed in the Thucydides trap, which actually doesn't apply between the United States and China, right? For all kinds of reasons, primarily at the simplest for people to understand, and they can chase down the rabbit holes there. China is a land power, US is a sea power. The problem is that actually the United States is also a land power, right? We've been doing sea power shit because of our English, our English ancestry. But point is that my belief, firm belief, is that Europe is looking for a new husband, and they think that husband's China. And they think that in order to attract, I'm sorry,
Europe's got nothing going for it, not at all.
Well, and that's exactly what I'm saying. She's 45. She's got 6 kids from 3 different men, right? The enticement from her is that she's got a lot of relationships, got access, she's got all these, got kids everywhere, she's connected everywhere, she's got all these capabilities to just cause chaos and turmoil everywhere, and she thinks that China's going to be like, well, that's a great opportunity. I'll go ahead and take you into my bed for a while. I'll support your lifestyle as long as I can gain access to what capabilities and access and placement you have for me to destroy my enemy. And oh, by the way, there are some, again, I grew up in and around these people. This is exactly how they think. And there are some men who are in pure competition with other wealthy men who do that with a woman like that.
Right. But China doesn't need to.
China doesn't want to because China's not actually in competition with us.
Yeah.
ARC's real. Now, are we allies? Are we best friends? That's never going to happen. We're
No.
two fundamentally different peoples. But there are far more similarities to the English, the English civilizational peoples, the Chinese civilizational peoples, and the Russian civilizational peoples than any one of us or all of us have with all other people on Earth combined. We're civilizations. If China wanted to screw with us and go to war with us, they could just do it.
Well,
Europe
you've
has
also
nothing
got
to offer them.
you've also got three great powers that have all been played by the
Correct.
same groups.
By the same woman.
So, exactly. And so when you come together, the three powers are coming together now. You can see this in the national security strategy, and they're comparing notes.
Yes.
Well, she told me this. Oh, well, she
Yes.
told me the same thing. Oh, she told me the same thing. She's giving me Monaco. No. I was already given Monaco by her.
Yes.
You
Or
see the
Diego
metaphor
Garcia. Or
Diego Garcia
Gibraltar.
is an even better one. That's right. Gibraltar. So the point is that for the stability of the world and the future of the human race, it makes great sense for these top three powers to keep comparing notes. No, we don't love each other. Yes, we have hostilities between us. Yes, we will find ways geopolitically and financially to mix it up. But there is not a principal difference. We all care about our peoples and seeing them survive and go on into the future. Whereas the globalists in the city of London, they mean what they say when they write these documents about depopulation, sustainable development goals, and all this other shit. We're going to steal from all of you, and how dare you be alive? Are you still alive? Why
and
are
we're
you
going
alive?
to kill you in vast numbers so that we can lock in the steel.
Yeah,
exactly. And so the top three are saying, no, we're being played, and we all have to understand that the three of us are being played against each other with nuclear weapons.
And the thing about locking the steel is something that you've talked about and you've written about, like the financialist kill chain, and in a previous video that we recorded about what's being done to young men.
To young men.
In order to lock in the steel for the oligarchs, the globalist class. Now, a question that I have for you, Ian, because you might have a different twist on it to what I've heard so far. And I'm looking forward to having my head twisted by both of you, as happens pretty much every single time I have you both together. Why is Greenland so important? Why are the Europeans so upset about Greenland? Why does Trump want it so much? I can get why Trump wants it. At the very basic, it's increasing landmass, its territory, its resources. They surround Canada. Oh no, I've got this wrong. Okay,
we don't need any of that.
The surrounding Canada is useful. Closing off.
We don't need it. What you have to look at is where is all the population of Canada? It's on the American border, and it's really in 5 places. If Canada was really a threat to us, it would be over in like 2 days at the most. And somebody posted something earlier. I can't remember it. Some Canadian person, right, government person, high ranking, was saying that, they're having secret conversations inside to where if it comes to a conflict in the United States, I don't remember if they said it was 2 days or 2 weeks. I was like, you got to be joking me. If the United States decides we have to use force, we were not even going to use force. We will just move to the border in force, and 80% of your military will come to our side because they hate you that much. In 5 seconds.
Yes.
Right? They despise you that much. And law enforcement and everything else, outside of, maybe Toronto and Ontario and a couple other little places, you're going to find it'll be like that scene in Braveheart, my ancestor, William, Wallace. It'll be like the scene where the English are using the Irish, and they think the Irish are going to go attack the Scots, and they're on the battlefield, Longshanks. He's like, go get them. And they rah, and then they stop, and they slow down, they walk, and then they hug all the Scots, and they go to the other side. Why? Because they're the same people, and they hate the English. Sorry, Dad. My father's English, so right. Okay. Point is that. Give me a second. Where was I at that? So
why Greenland?
Why is this so important? Okay, what people need to do is they need to, and Tom talks to this, and others have talked to this. But what you need to do is you need to stop looking at the Mercator map.
Yep.
You need to take a
look
globe.
Down on it.
You need to take a globe, and you need to look down over the North Pole. And you need to look at the land masses and the routes of travel. And also what you need to do is look at different seasons for ice coverage. And oh, by the way, Al Gore was wrong, people. I don't know if you figured this out yet, but the Arctic ice pack is increasing, not decreasing. Now it is shifting a little bit pattern-wise of where it, ice packs in the winters, but that has a lot to do with the shifting electromagnetic field of the Earth's pole, et cetera, et cetera. But when you look at so back to what I said, Europe has been preparing for material supports of a civil war in the United States for over 60 years. They've been preparing at every level in every way, radicalization, they've been preparing us in all these diverse ways. They've been mounting an unconventional war against us, this very stuff I went to the schoolhouse for over 60 years. They are now ready. But in order for there to be a civil war in the United States, the insurgent forces would have to be materially supported from the outside, and only Europe could do that. Well, if you again look down on a globe and you see where Greenland is, they have to have Greenland to go back and forth. I'm going to give you another little piece. When people look at that map, right, people think, okay, well, it's a 5-hour flight from New York to London. Okay. But from Newfoundland to the United Kingdom is a 90-minute ferry ride. What? 90-minute ferry.
True.
Look at the map. Look down at the map. Look how close Newfoundland is
great circle route
to the United Kingdom. It's a 90-minute ferry ride.
Yeah.
Okay. So Greenland is right there. It's a little bit further up, et cetera. But that whole area there is a very quick route. Fast boats and cargo ships and everything. So if your intention is to materially support a civil war become an all-out war in the United States, where you're going to pour all these jihadis and all these cartel and everything else in there, right? Because you have to collapse the United States, you have to have
supply lane,
and you have to have Canada, because Canada, if you don't have Russia, because this was the reason to take Russia, by the way. They wanted Russia's natural resources to go to war with us in America. Well, the only other place those natural resources are available to them, now that Africa is being taken off the table, is Canada. So they need to be able to get raw materials out, process them in Europe, and then send them back. Okay. 2 places we have to have. 2. Greenland and Newfoundland.
So there's another reason. We have this cool thing in this world now called hypersonics nuclear missiles. And the flight time from Russia to Washington, D.C., even with their greatest hypersonics piece, is 26 minutes. That's 26 minutes of warning. If you were to somehow get those types of weapons onto the Greenland landmass, that time goes down to 11 minutes.
It's unstoppable. It's unstoppable anyways, but maybe you can get some people out.
It is, but you also get to make a decision about your own defense at that point. So what we can't have is a United States that can be blackmailed, because the best warning time you're ever going to see is 3 minutes. Yeah. You can't. Yeah. And we're never going to leave that up to the Danes, who are going to bring 2 ships and a dog named Rex, like I told you the last time. And by the way, NATO, to get a force package to go anywhere in the world, takes approximately 6 months of meetings and coffee parties and teas and cocktail parties. And we should have a commission on this, and let's study it. Well, I love what Barry said, and maybe Hans over here in Germany could help us out with that.
So I agree with you on that, right? So one of the concerns, not so much from Russia. Well, this is also courting China, because China has hypersonics.
Right.
Europe does not. So maybe they're not friends with Russia. They're not going to be friends with Russia probably ever again. Right. Probably not. At least not for a couple centuries until.
But it's not the relationship you have today. It's what's your relationship going to look like in 20 years.
No, I'm totally with you, Blaine. That's what I'm getting at is, what are they doing now? Well, they fell for the belief that America and China are allies or enemies, and we're going to war.
Right.
Well, now they're courting China, and Greenland could play heavily into that for exactly the reason you're saying. Because China does have these assets. More importantly, from there, China would have a base where they could strike sea assets, naval assets in the Atlantic, U.S. naval assets in the Atlantic. They don't have that capacity right now.
They've tried twice. They have tried to put that base up twice.
Okay.
And the Danes nearly went for it the last time. And that's what scared the living hell.
Yeah.
Both sides of the aisle. Obama side, the Republican side, everybody was unified on that one. Holy shit. We can't let that happen.
Right. Okay. Which is what I was going to ask. So why is Trump so focused on this where previous presidents haven't been? Is it because previous presidents have been owned by the City of London? Or
yes, but it's not that. It's because they've lost the war in Ukraine against Russia. And now they have to go from their primary plan to their alternate plan.
Right.
And their alternate plan is to get natural resource, because war against the United States has been in the offing since the 1940s. Mm-hmm. I have a deep suspicion that this was really what Operation Paperclip and Gladio and all these others was really about, putting all of these third right people in all these positions of power, was that they were already setting up, once Germany was defeated, they were going to defeat
I think that
States
becomes more
next.
clear every day. I think that becomes more clear every day.
Just more and more, if that's the key. And then you look at these and you're like, oh, this has been set up.
And now they're moving from their alternate plan onto their contingency plan. And that's going to be a doozy.
Yeah,
because they don't know what it is.
You're absolutely right.
Think.
They're being shoved off, right? And they're shoved off one. The contingency just happens to start with a C, also China.
Yep. Yes,
but it's not. And this is also Blaine. The running little tiff you and I have having, not the Air Force Army one, but the China one, right? The Air Force Army one, that one's going to go on forever. That's just the way it is.
Infinitum. We can all agree the Space Force is gay.
Yeah. Well, at least an ambiguously gay duo from the old SNL. Yeah, but the contingency
Sailor.
The contingency plan is China.
Yeah.
And this is my suspicion, again, Blaine, to the conversation you and I have been having since the very first one. This is my suspicion why the British leave behind assets, and US, unfortunately, but British and US leave behind assets in China were all activated over the last couple of years to try and get rid of Xi and his alliances within China. So that then there would be power based in China that would be conducive to backing Europe in this move against the United States.
Right. Okay. Part of it, I wonder, is China, Russia, and the United States working together informally to keep prolonging the Ukraine war as a way of defeating Europe. Like we can Europe further.
Yeah.
And then now Europe has to pay attention to Greenland and send all of its 21 soldiers and have its attention there and its money there. Therefore, it has even less to divert towards Ukraine.
Yeah. Russia did a rather extraordinary thing that a man would do, man thinking, right? Testosterone thinking, not estrogen thinking.
Well, Putin's
it took the Ukraine
man.
And because it's not just, it's the Russians. The Russians are proper men, right? He's there because he represents who Russians are very well. Same, by the way, again, Blaine and I banter back and forth, but Xi's doing the same with the Chinese. And the Chinese are very different peoples than us, right? So give me a second. Russia took Ukraine in 2 days. They took it in 2 days with minimal bloodshed. They were surrounding Kyiv, not surrounding it, but I mean they were right there at Kyiv, and then they stopped.
And then they fixed the force to annihilate it.
Well, that's exactly right.
Because Boris blew it up.
They stopped because they didn't want to kill their own people.
Yeah,
these are their own people, right? Okay, and Kyiv is the home city of the Russian civilization.
It's the mother of Russia. That's right.
Kyiv and the Rus, right? So that's exactly, it's the mother, right? So, okay. Then they backed off because we came in and said, blew that up and lied and did all kinds of things and blew it up. So what did Russia do? Russia sat back and said, okay, we have to bankrupt and disarm Europe. And they've set to doing that. And they have done that over the last 3 years extraordinarily well.
Yep.
Now, do you think that pain and that stain is ever going to go away? Because they had to kill almost 2 million of what they consider their own people to do that.
No, that's never going away.
Do you think China's not watching?
Yeah, no, they're watching. But I think it flipped in terms of motivations to keep the war going. I think it flipped in terms of, look, Europe is deindustrialized. It is broke. It can't shovel more money in. This fantasy about 90 billion more going for 2 years to Ukraine is just that. So
or sending
now
vast armies to Ukraine to carry on the war.
Yeah, and they're not going to do that because they think a vast army is 20,000 people, which is funny. So the point is that it's actually now the European leaders, meaning the WEF children, the ones who were trained there to be stupid and do exactly what they were told. They are the bag holders now. They tried to create World War III. They failed. Now they have no money, no weapons, no economy. It's blowing up as we speak. And so they are now a desperate, cornered dog. And so what that creates is if this is why they're going to their contingency plan or even their emergency plan, because the thing they don't want to face is this thing called accountability. Because the European people, once this war is definitely over and ended on Russian military terms, the European people are going to be looking at them saying, okay, what have you done to us? Yeah. We have no civil rights. We've been invaded by another force. We have our culture being erased. Our women are being raped. Our countries are being destroyed. We don't have any jobs because we don't make anything anymore. And you think it's okay to keep printing money and stealing from us and taking our stuff. And that's going to put them in a very bad position. So when you are facing accountability, it's not about money and power anymore. It's about survival. And when you're facing an enemy that is looking at a survivability problem, nothing's off the table. Nothing. Absolutely nothing is off the table.
Particularly when they're estrogens, when they're estrogenic.
Yeah.
So I'm completely with you, Blaine. I believe China is their contingency strategy. I don't think it's going to work. So then we really do need to look at their emergency strategy. And their emergency strategy is still civil war in the United States. And it is widespread bloodshed, terrorist initiated bloodshed. What I suspect, however, is they will also do it in their own countries as a mask.
I agree. And I don't think they have a choice because otherwise they'll be answering to them.
Correct. And what they'll do is they'll use the widespread terrorism in their own countries as a means to bolster and sustain themselves in positions of power as they now start to move against, all these people they've imported.
Well, the mother of all distractions, in my view, as I war game this out, would be a small nuclear device somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
Because we'll all focus on that. They'll have pulled it away from themselves.
I wonder about that, right? I wonder. I don't actually agree with that. My belief
I hope
is
I'm wrong.
I do believe in nuke, but I think they would use only a nuke that would launch World War III. What this would be, this would be very widespread, prolonged terrorist attacks, broad spectrum, coordinated terrorist attacks, so that then they can nationalize everything, right? Put themselves on wartime footing, shove all their young men into uniform.
Yeah. EM, when we put enemy courses of action on planning slides, we don't just put one. No. They may do two or three or all of the above.
Yeah. But, the one issue about nukes is that is so scary.
It is.
That, that it will get people to back down and acquiesce. And that's not what they want. That's not why they're like we talked in other
So if I argue your
that's
point.
Not why they're radicalizing men. Yeah, go ahead.
If I argue your point.
No.
A nuke scenario almost certainly means the narrative gets away from them, that they cannot control events or timelines anymore.
Correct.
And I think that scares them just as much as their own mortality scares them.
Well, I agree. What terrifies them is having to go to the E in their PACE plan, the emergency in their PACE plan, very much what you're saying, because that can get out of control. They really don't have a lot of power and control there. They can launch it, they can initiate it, they can carry it on for a while. But the strong men that are doing the killing ultimately rise to power fairly quickly in those situations. What it
That's
means,
right.
though, is that they are committed to Europe's total and absolute dark age-like collapse.
And then the young man that you're talking about will go find them, and
Correct.
it'll be a Mad Max world.
Correct.
No,
Correct.
there is something else that could be used as a distraction, unless it's real, unless it's not. Which is an article in, I don't know which newspaper it was in the UK, saying the Bank of England needs to get ready for financial collapse in case Trump announces aliens.
Yeah.
Now you're talking. Now we're in the varsity round. This is where I wanted this conversation to be.
Well, you could have taken it there from the beginning, but here we go. A few minutes. Well, let's take it now. I mean, okay? All right. So I'm gonna say my piece about it, right? So I have come across stuff on the internet about how there have been previous civilizations, Graham Hancock stuff before 12,000 years ago, and then all the sort of technology that we've lost and how we've built the pyramids.
Tartaria, there you go. I'll throw it out there.
But going back way before Tartaria, right? Alien, and how we don't have the right number of chromosomes that we should have compared to other primates or whatever, right? All sorts of things, and that we were visited, and that the angels were actually Elohim, Gabriel, and Michael, and all of that, right? I wasn't there. I don't know if it's true or not. And then the universe is so vast and complex and big, and why shouldn't there be other life forms much more advanced than us? And I have been following for a while Three Eye Atlas, what's been going on with that and what that's about. But also they might do Blue Beam in order to unite us and to trick us once again to get us to behave in a certain way.
Yeah.
It might really be real, and they might be pretending that it isn't, or it might not be real, and they're pretending that it is.
Yeah. So this is where Kit Perez and I were going on my podcast earlier this week with deception operations, cognitive overload, and psychological operations. First off, they want to make these stories like the one you saw in the Bank of England happen so fast, get your attention, and then they get it gone. And then they keep a steady diet of those things happening from all directions. One of the triggers that there's just an absolute bamboozle afoot is that they'll take a name a name that's household, institutional, a name it's normal to your brain, which would be the Bank of England. And then they'll take another concept that you completely understand, which is bank failure. So those are a name concept you understand, and then they tie it to the alien thing. Now, you can go down the pretzel logic trail of walking that back and going, wait a minute, you held the story in the press for about 9 nanoseconds, so I didn't even get to ask you the question, why? Why are we experiencing a bank failure because ET showed up? How do I know that they're hostiles? It sounds to me like we need a whole entire newspaper dedicated to this issue if you're going to throw those three things up at the same time. Three Eye Atlas, same thing. When it started, they started that bullshit back in July, which is, we found a spaceship. It's inbound. Doesn't look like a comet. It's coming this way, and it's as large as Manhattan. Okay, there's nothing I can do about that. But then we start tying things to it. Like, there may be some sort of tie-in with coronal mass injections, which are solar storms, really, and what we see happening with Three Eye Atlas. They start building on that narrative. And it's only in the press and out of the press and in the press and out of the press. Because why? They're trying to get your emotions, get endorphins going, get you to a raised sense of alertness, and then they pull it all back from you. So what we want to try to do in this world is normalize this for you. So that if they are going to do a blue beam, a hologram, which you've already seen them test out with the big drone fracas in New Jersey 2 years ago, we're going to test out these things and see how you react to them. And we're going to call them ET. We're going to say the world's changed. We're going to have new rules for your security to protect us from these things. And we're going to have new policies and new laws and new regulations to protect you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start testing out other things. Like, can we use microwave beams to start putting voices in your head? So if I
you're
capitalize on something called the Bible and I say, oh, the start of Ezekiel 38, the prophecy is happening now. You need to go here. That's where things like that can get to.
If I'm looking at 5 quadrillion in wealth being wiped out, would I put $2, $3, $4 trillion into faking aliens?
Yeah. Well said. Well, so I spent too many minutes on my blurb, and you just covered it in 30 seconds. Well done.
I remember. I'm old enough to remember.
Now.
I remember the last time Bluebeam was pulled out.
Yeah.
I remember. And oh, by the way, that's an Air Force project. The whole Bluebeam thing, right?
And when was this, Ian?
This is 1970s.
EM. We have sinned so much worse than that by now.
Well, I know. I know that.
Yeah.
It's not like my green beanies ain't done some horrible shit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not talking my lie, right?
Yeah, right.
This was the 1970s. So the last time the narrative, the financial economic narrative was breaking down was the early and mid 1970s, right? Really peaking in the late 1970s. And Project Bluebeam was floated out there then. And they had credible Air Force colonel. I can't remember his name. My mother knew him personally, by the way, right? I met him myself as a little kid. And this was Project Bluebeam was being leaked out then as a potential for, okay, well, maybe we got to make this, maybe we got to do the aliens thing now.
Right.
The other one that they're still running with right now, and unfortunately it's got legs, is this Adam and Eve's book that the CIA recently released. That's supposedly been, in the archives for 60 some odd years, that this guy, this geophysicist or astrophysicist or whatever wrote about, the sun hits the earth with solar radiation that disrupts the electromagnetic field of the earth stops spinning, then it flips the field and the earth starts spinning the other way.
Oh, yeah.
The oceans keep going over the continents and it scrubs everything clean.
Yeah.
That one's got legs. And now they got there's 2 YouTube channels that are backing that with daily updates, sometimes hourly updates on space weather, etc. It's the same thing as Project Blue Book. The thing is that different human beings, right? Okay, so I'm going to real quick, and then I know we're running out of time. The Greeks worked out thousands of years ago that the human mind is only capable of 13 different fundamental storylines. There's a small handful, 5 or 7, I don't remember, archetypes in the main characters in those stories. Might be a little bit more than that, but there's only 13 primary storylines available to the human brain because of the way our brains function. So what's happening is the financialists, the Praetorians, and their predecessors long before them, are always they're always injecting things into those 13 different storylines that people are living, just in case something's necessary for them to pull one out and make that the primary plot and the primary story so that they can stay in power.
Right.
They're seeding all of these different things into those 13 different storylines. And if they need to, because, we realize, the light's gone on and we all realize we're sitting in a freaking theater and nothing's real, then they can just pull one of these out.
Right.
Right. And you walk outside and there's aliens.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important for people to keep watching my shows, listening to your podcast, Blaine, read your vlog, Burlingame EM, follow all of us on X, and subscribe, comment, like. Blaine, EM, it's been an absolute blast once again. I look forward to doing
a pleasure
with you both in a month's time. All the best.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.